Hey everyone, welcome back to day 17. Today I want to talk about a skill set that you can develop over time that allows you to scale and scope your intuition. It allows you to enter into the world of scale and discern scope as well. Now, I use this skill all the time in the context of my work as a medical intuitive or anything else that I'm intuiting, whether it's work or business or family or my kids or my life or anything. You can adjust scale and scope all the time from an intuitive perspective, not simply a cognitive perspective where you are using comparing and contrasting skills. This is different. Although, once you're at an intended scale, you certainly use the skills of comparing and contrasting to assess what's going on. For example, as I said in the very first audio, that I always ask people what they'd like my help with because I'm looking at their body's response, their nervous system, their energetic systems respond to their words. That shows me congruency or a lack thereof, to whatever degree. I typically start at a scale that allows me a broader scope. So if this was a camera, my aperture would be more widely open. It won't be open at its widest point, but it's about mid-range. From that midpoint, I have a naturally broader perspective to watch and discern and assess what's going on. It is at that scope of intuitive assessment that I can first discern the scale at which I need to adjust in order to provide the most accurate assessment of that which I'm looking at. It's important to have this skill as a medical intuitive because without it, I can't go into the minutia of what's going on in the body. I'm highly visual, but I also have other intuitive perceptive lenses operating, the sense of empathy, auditory, that quality of knowing, where you know but you don't know how you know, and other intuitive lenses are open and functioning. I rely heavily on the visual ability that I have gained over the years, some of which has been thrust upon me. That is where I started as a child, highly visual to the unseen world. The primary intention to develop your skills for medical intuition or any other level of life or function of life to which you want to apply your intuitive intelligence is the attribute of curiosity. And it's a neutral curiosity, one that doesn't have expectations. You are unattached to what you may or may not discover. You're in it for the experience of it. And in the context of medical intuitive work, I'm in it for the benefit of someone to whom I am in service in the moment. The skill of scale and scope allows me to telescope way out, and I'll often tell clients that, okay, I'm going to look at you as if I were about 10 or 20 feet away from you. That allows a very obvious broad perspective. Then, as needed, I will telescope into structures all the way in to cell and DNA, whatever I need to do. Now, I know that may sound like, whoa, really, DNA? But you know what? There's evidence of it in the results of the people with whom I have worked. I don't go in with expectations of what I'm going to see. I allow my mind to get out of the way and allow what is going to be presented to be seen, heard, felt, or that knowledge perception to arise within me. I don't have expectations. I have intention of being curious on what I can do, what can be presented, and what will help this person. Intuition requires not only curiosity, but this openness of allowing. You have to allow it to come through you and come to you first and foremost. Now, how do you gain this skill of scale and scope? Well, to gain this, and let me back up a second. The depth to which we are capable of assessing any object with our intuitive faculty is really even beyond what I can imagine or comprehend at this time. And I've had some pretty extraordinary experiences through the years. which do include DNA, tracking bacteria, tracking viruses, looking at the cell structure, microscopic structures in the body that even surprise me. In fact, it always surprises me. I always leave a session with a client in a state of awe for what we are capable of as human beings and the capacity we have to harness our own power, our power of discernment, which leads to the power of choice, so we can make different decisions for ourselves. Scale and scope is important for that. Scale and scope is not only for the moment of assessment, it's for the future of assessment, of where we're going. Scale and scope helps me determine other attributes that I'm looking at or looking for and curious about in the progression or regression of a state of wellness, illness, whatever I'm looking at. Scale and scope allows me to track the directional movement of chemistry, whether cell receptor sites are receiving data, chemistry, electricity, whether or not a strand of DNA is vague or non-functional, or if it's just fine and something else is brewing in the body. When I'm down at those tight levels of scale, I just slowly back out and am able to see the tangential points to which that specific target is connected. That allows the scope to broaden, which in turn allows more options and choices on what to do that I can relay to the client, and then they can go on and relay that to their physician. Now, this skill obviously is used in other contexts. I don't always do medical intuitive work. I work with people that are going through litigious situations, relational situations. Scale and scope is very important when assessing a relationship or the burgeoning of it or the disintegration of it. What choices do they have embedded within them that they're not willing to look at yet? And I just help them lay it on the table. And that's used so they can see what's going on within themselves and acknowledge that and take their power back and make some discernments and choices. Scale and scope is something that is applicable in every context. Now, to develop this is not a binary skill. In other words, you cannot do this practice and gain this skill instantly. It's not an exchange like that. There has to be the transformational aspects that occur within yourself in order to let this type of transcendent quality, and it is a transcendent level because it's a paradigm changer, and anything that changes a paradigm is a transcendent act. It's a transcendent experience that then takes you to another level of perception. So you have to have a paradigm shift, and you can't have a paradigm shift from just a binary transaction of I'll do this and therefore I'll be that, or be able to do that, or be able to have that. There has to be that middle place of transformation that takes place. Now, the tools that allow all levels of intuitive function to come online as they are prescribed to do so within your context of your own life are done through the practice of meditation and other contemplative practices. And I know your eyes are probably rolling. It's like, get off the meditation piece. But, it's been around for thousands of years in different forms within every cultural structure. You don't think Homo habilis from the Pleistocene era in the Ice Age looked up at a glacier sliding down and went, oh my? They may not have said, oh my God, but they said, oh my, and hoped that some existential force would come in and save their little furry self. It's natural for us to want to transform. And transcendence comes from transformation first and foremost. So a meditation practice is critical, not only for your physical well-being and your mental, intellectual well-being, for your intuitive development. Meditation, along with creating opportunities for you to explore with curiosity, unattached curiosity, that wondrous child in you that used to wander into the forest or go by the stream's edge. And then, of course, into the stream. If you're like me, you can't stay out of it. You have to get in there and turn over the rocks and see what lives under there, right? That level of curiosity, What will I discover? What is this? That's when it gets interesting. And that's when the doors of perception start to open. They cannot be forced. They cannot be bought. And you can't cajole your soul into opening up for you. Set the platform first with sincerity and create your best practices. All things that honor the inner self above the outer self are transformational actions. Decide what those are for you. And when you have an opportunity to test your intuitive skills on a scale and scope level, remember to breathe and be open. Take your body's energy up higher in your body. If you want to look at this from a chakra point of view, I read from the sixth chakra. That's the place of neutrality, and it's the place I call intuitive analytics, where the intuitive faculty and the intellectual cognitive faculty become best friends. They're intertwined and permeable, and they flow beautifully without any hindrance or obscuration, and that's what allows the intuitive ability to go in with curiosity and acceptance of whatever you may find to begin the process of scaling down and down and down and down and even out, increasing that scope, and go see what happens out in the universe with dark matter or what's on the other side of the moon. There are no limits to what you can perceive. We set the bar internally. And if you're willing to move away from the binary this for that mentality and sit and practice your meditation, your contemplative work, your inner psychological work to get the wounded child and the little professor who thinks they know everything out of the way, then the opportunities will come. And it shows up. It's not magic, although it can seem magical. It is more part of the mystical qualities of what we experience as human beings. And the mystical qualities are really you being in touch with your divinity, that higher intelligence that creates all things. The saving grace and the knowledge that attributes like scale and scope, speed, time, directional movement, texture, viscosity, density, all of those qualities that fit into the law of attribute are a part of nature. Therefore, if it is in nature, and you are nature and a part of nature, you have your own true nature, it's going to happen for you eventually. The closer you are operating from your own true nature and being congruent within yourself, the more opportunities you have to move beyond your current ability and reach your capacity. I've witnessed some amazing things in my life. My hand disappearing into someone's leg that all of a sudden turned into the black and white particle structures of the old analog televisions. Scared the jeebies out of me. Only lasted for about 10 seconds. But the woman walked away healed by some force other than me. And I could go on and on and on with stories because I've been doing this for decades. Trust yourself always, which is not easy to do. However, if you come into each day and welcome the day, release expectancies, add curiosity and wonderment, and stir, you will experience things that you can't even imagine. Expectancy blocks intuition and imagination and invention and innovation and creativity, and I could go on and on. So make this a day of wonderment for you and of curiosity and see what happens. Until next time.